of artificial intelligence for legal practice in Nigeria and beyond, and also the impact and considerations for the use of this technology. Now, for the experience of the participants, can we have that line muted? We will not begin until that line is muted. Let's ensure that that line is muted. If our administrators can track down that disruption, and we can have the line muted.
I think it can only be from you, Joy. Unfortunately, I'm not the host.
Thank you very much, administrators. Appreciate that. So without further ado, what we'd like to do to kick off the discussion is to do a round robin of our speakers today to have a little overview of yourself and your organization to give some context for all of our attendees on who you are and how you have integrated legal tech or AI into your business operations. So the first person I can see on my screen is Mrs. Shayon Timi Koliolu. So if you would kindly step to the platform and give us the introduction. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. My name is Shayon Timi Koliolu. I am a founding partner at Pavestones Legal. Pavestones Legal is a full-service modern law practice with an interest in technology and innovation. Our clients, we have quite a few clients in the tech space. We're also trying to build technology to ensure that we meet our clients' needs more efficiently. Apart from being founding partner of Pavestones, I'm also the second vice chair of the technology committee of the section on business law. Thank you all for having me here today.
Fantastic. And so if we could then move on to Viava to just share with us an introduction, and we will then move on across the panel. Hello.
Excellent. Hi, my name is Viava Hampunuwisu. Managing partner of Blackstone Legal Advisory Services. We are a boutique law firm based in Lagos with an office in London, and primarily background has been in technology. Just a second, please. Background is primarily in legal practice. I have worked in IT for quite a few years, so I do have a legal and, should I say, technology background. Practice also in real estate law, private client work, and corporate finance. Thank you.
Brilliant. And if we could kindly hand over to Mr. Osaro Egobamyem to give us just an introduction to your organization.
Thank you very much, Joy. My name is obviously Osaro Egobamyem, and I'm the managing partner of Pavestones Legal. I think really my partner who's responsible for technology should have been sitting here, but I guess that Folashade wanted me to speak as managing partner. So about 8 years ago, we always had a seminar in India. And at that time, we focused on fossil oil. It became clear that India was going to move to green oil, if you can put it that way. And so they were concentrating a lot on technology. So our partner today we decided I spent some time in India. So I spent about 6 months to 8 months understudying technology and how it affects legal practice. Of course, more importantly, how it affects our clients' work. So we're in a position to advise effectively. So since then, we've had a very vibrant department of technology. So really, Ugo should be speaking to you, but I'll try to do my best to tell you how we've adopted technology within our site to optimize efficiency of our clients. Thank you.
And so we'll take it easy with you because we know you're not the technology lead, but we will be leaning in to understand a bit more about how you're integrating AI and technology. So we'll move on to our final panelist, Mrs. Modupe Odele, before we then move on to the distinguished Mrs. Boma Alabi to give us the welcoming remarks. I'll hand over to Modupe and then we will go for welcome and opening remarks.
Hi, thank you so much. I apologize, first of all, for the noise in my background, if any. I had a slight scheduling issue. Anyway, but I just wanted to also say, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so it's not Mrs., it's Miss. So it's just Modupe. So I just wanted to correct that. But thank you very much for having me here. My name is Modupe Odile. Most people call me Mo, and I'm the managing partner at Vazi. Vazi in itself is a technology-focused law firm. One of the ways that we describe ourselves is we advise clients in the innovation space, literally from the point of conception of an idea up until exiting the company itself. We also advise people who invest in said companies. So that's how we work, and we're very focused on the innovation space. So I'm glad to be here. I think it's going to be an enriching conversation, and I'm looking forward to hearing the different diverse perspectives on this issue. So thank you so much.
Pleasure. And we're also looking forward to your contributions. So but just before we hand over to our chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association, the section on legal practice, I'll also give an intro to myself. So my name is Joy Omorige. I am the Europe, Middle East and Africa Generative AI Strategic Initiatives Lead for Amazon Web Services. So our organization is at the heart of Gen AI, the creation of Gen AI, how that grows across industries, and the majority of the world's organizations are either on our cloud or connected to our cloud. So aside from that, I've had a 15-year career in moderating, presenting, as well as being a banker for a decade before transitioning into technology and Gen AI most specifically. So it's my pleasure as a Nigerian to be interlocked in this discussion and conversation, and to bring subject matter expertise to the conversation as well. All right, so without further ado, I will hand over now to Mrs. Boma Alabi, the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association section on legal practice, to give the welcoming address before we start this discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joy, for your kind introduction. And I have to say the panel is truly intimidating with the breadth of knowledge and experience across board, including yourself, the moderator. And from my perspective as the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association section of legal practice, I'm not at all surprised, because this is a panel that has been put together by none other than Olashade Ali, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who currently chairs the Nba-Slp Committee on Law Practice Management. There's nothing she does that she does not do excellently well. And so, like I said, this does not at all surprise me. I will not take up more of our time because time is already far spent. I ought to have been here at 4 on the dot to say welcome to all the distinguished panelists. But unfortunately, connectivity issues meant that I couldn't. I wonder if AI is going to find a way around that. I'm looking forward to hearing from the distinguished panelists, looking forward to learning, and thank you all for answering the invitation of the section on legal practice to participate in this webinar. So thank you.
Well, Mrs. Alabi, thank you so much for, honoring us with that introduction, for being here when you could. I can't say that AI is going to correct all of Nigeria's needs when it comes to interconnectivity, but I'm sure the technology can help with efficiencies. So without further ado, just to give a context for how we will go about delivering this hour or so that we have together, we will cover a number of questions across the themes of responsible AI, data security, the integration of AI into legal practice. We will also move into questions where we are able to understand how our distinguished panel are incorporating AI into their legal practice, firms and ways of working, and also any challenges that have arisen as a result. We'll also be intending that this event will be one that opens up the opportunities as well as gives insight into considerations that this very historic industry must contend with, as AI no doubt will be integrated more and more into the ways of working. So as we kick off, the first area that we'd like to actually get into will be a question that applies to all of the panelists. So as we can see, the adoption of AI is happening widespread, but traditionally, law tends to be a slow adopter to embracing change and embracing technology. From your perspective, and we've heard from Modukbe, from Sheung, those who are actively, even Mr. Osaro, those who are actively using AI right now, what would you say has been the biggest driver of AI or legal tech adoption in your firms and amongst your customers? So I'll hand over to Sheung first and then move over to Mo to piggyback on that response. Sheung, if we could have a response from you on that.
Okay, thank you. So as I described Pavestones, we're a modern law practice. And why we describe ourselves as modern is because of our values of simplicity, accessibility, commercial savviness, and freely disseminating information. When we started Pavestones, we recognized an issue in the market, and we noticed that clients needed their lawyers to be more accessible. They needed the lawyers to meet their needs quicker, to be efficient. And we recognized that the only way and the best way to do this was with technology. We found that there's a lack of, when we started Pavestones, we noticed there was a lack of information, free information online for clients who just wanted to do a desktop search to find out what's happening in Nigeria, what they need to know to start their business. We believe that it's better that they have the information because we're all Googling, we're in a Google age. And we believed it's best that information is easily accessible and then they can come to us to get the work done. So we just started disseminating information freely online to ensure that clients could know what the law in Nigeria says, what the regulations say easily, and then come to us with their needs. Now, with that and having platforms that disseminate so much of our information online, I've actually spoken to clients who have said, this is my first time speaking to a person in Africa. And I reached you, I found you online. The power of technology to access people, to connect people is amazing. We're also a law practice that wants to go more in-depth. And the only way you can provide more in-depth support to clients is to take away the administrative, the challenges, the frictions in getting the work done. So we will rather use technology to take out the challenges and focus on doing the work. We're still a work in progress. We know that there's more and more to do in terms of using AI and technology, but this is what we are about. And this is how we've started, and this is how we have met and supported the needs of clients cross-border and from various sectors. Thank you.
No problem. So it sounds like from those responses, technology has supported with a visibility, has supported with efficiency gains, and has supported with being able to open up new customer segments that you may not have had access to previously. Yeah. So moving on to Mo, if you could just piggyback from that question and just share, for an industry that typically has various reasons for being a slow adopter to certain types of technology, what has driven the take-up of AI in legal practice in your experience?
Okay, so in my experience, one of the key things for us is technology adoption in itself is built into the DNA of our firm. For instance, most of our processes are automated because we are, first of all, a virtual law firm. So we started off as a virtual law firm about 5 years ago. This means that we're coordinating from the beginning across different time zones, right? And even up until now, when I look at our work, we're working across 5 to 7 time zones at the same time at every given point in time, right? So just to be more efficient, we had to make sure that technology was built into our DNA. So a lot of our processes internally, even as a firm, they're all automated, right? From how we submit documents for review, how we submit administrative requests, all of it is automated. We actually built our own automation tool on the back of publicly available and accessible, technology. So we built that, customized it to how we work, and that's how we've always worked. So with AI, for instance, of course, I know this conversation is going to talk about the limitations of AI, and we're very aware of that. But for us, we use AI in terms of research. It's a very big part of it. Now, with research, of course, you have to be really careful, because one of the major drawbacks of AI is if you don't know anything about your subject, of the subject matter, right, you're unable to pick up loopholes, right? But a lot of the work that we do, considering the fact that we work in the technology ecosystem, we're doing it for the first time. These are issues that are new for our clients, issues that are new for us. So we're literally starting from scratch with our research, and we find that AI is usually a very good baseline to start with. That has been very helpful. Now, another thing that also drives the adoption of AI generally for us is because of the kind of clientele that we serve. Again, as I mentioned, all our clients are in the innovation space. So it's either they are creating innovations or they are investing in innovations, right? In order for us to be efficient, in order for us to be able to give legal advice that is at par or that is current, that is relevant, we need to make sure that we understand technological trends just generally, right? So as a firm, that's very important to us because it helps us relate even better with our clients. So
Understood. Brilliant. And thank you very much for that response. And so
you're welcome.
What comes to mind is, as you said, you're a virtual law firm. And so in your case, the subset of customers that you're reaching out to require that from you. So that makes absolute sense. But considering that law is based on billable hours and a significant fee for billable hours, this is a question that's more broadly open to the whole panel. How can law firms integrate AI and the automation that we've discussed with our two panelists sharing some of the efficiency savings, whilst also maintaining profitability and clients' trust? So we're going to start moving into trust and ethics and some of these considerations. But that challenge between billable hours and the speed and efficiency savings, how can AI be integrated whilst still maintaining profitability as well as that client trust? Does anyone have experiences, insights that you would like to share on that? That's open to the panel. Okay, I heard. Oh, great. Yes, please. Mr. Osaro, please go ahead.
Now, your question, you were, I think the line was breaking, but if I got you correctly, you were asking how we optimize the use of AI as it reduces the time that we spend in our work, and then can we then bill as we would normally bill, having regard to the fact that this will effectively reduce our fee notes. Is that what your question was directed at? Because we can't hear you properly.
So I think it might be on your side. I just want to check with some of the other panelists. Can you hear me clearly, or is my line breaking for you? Can you hear me clearly? That's just a hands up.
No, can hear clearly.
Brilliant. Okay, so there's something on your line, Mr. Osaro, but the question there was, how do you navigate the efficiencies that AI brings with the need to also maintain profitability with billing hours in this new technology realm? That's the question.
So so I'll break that question down, and let me use a personal experience. About 11 years ago, we're involved in a major arbitration. In fact, I think at that time it was one of the largest in terms of the volume of documentation and then the quantum of claim. I think we're talking about $12 billion, okay? That arbitration took us to London, Switzerland, Dubai, South Africa, and back to Nigeria. Now, it took maybe 6 months to analyze the documents alone. Documents were perhaps half a room full. It took us about six months to 12 months because we're analyzing very complex issues, the fiscal regime, the business data, the major discovery. Discovery is a major part of any arbitration work. We're working with technical experts, understanding the documents, analyzing them. You know, what we do in law is analysis. So I will break it into 4 areas, which is almost a replica of AI. And then I'll talk about the cost savings and what has happened now, the way we deal with this subject. So we look at documents in terms of historical information. Yes. So we start with historical analysis. We then diagnose those documents to understand a problem, and then we prescribe, we predict. So you predict what's going to happen, which is your opinion, and then you prescribe recommendations. This is exactly what machine learning does, the equivalent of what we call, well, AI and machine learning algorithm. I think we have to be careful what we're talking about. But basically, what does a machine do? The machine helps you with this analysis through arithmetic, maths, advanced maths. That's all it does, okay? So the machine has a cognitive memory, which is basically programmed to pretend that it has human intelligence. So whilst we spent about 12 months looking through those documents, today with AI, if we're analyzing those documents, I probably spend a month. All right.
Right.
Now,
and so the real crux of that question, just in the interest of time, is how do you now optimize for that year you were spending to a month, this massive reduction in time? How do you optimize for the spilling and for customer trust if you are now
so Joy, just be patient. I'm coming there. Yes. So Joy, be patient. That's what I'm saying. Just be patient. I'm coming there.
We've got to just balance the time here. We've got lots to get through.
Yes. In order for us to be able to do that work, I needed about, I don't know, 15, 20 lawyers to assist me. Now, we were on side, Clifford Chance and Alex were on the other side. They had, in the arbitration, they had about 12, 13 lawyers. We were about 5 of us. Now, automatically, the manpower I required is reduced substantially. So when I'm billing now, I may not bill hourly. I may put a fixed figure because of my intellect, but you can imagine that the cost of running that arbitration ran into millions of dollars. That cost is now all the way out. I can now bill just for my intellect, and I bill for some of me, I bill hourly, and I'm billing a lot more than I would have billed. So I'm maintaining my revenue at a reduced cost for someone like me because of the experience I have. So that is how we're dealing with those issues at the moment. I'll talk about it a bit more in detail.
Amazing. So what you've been able to do is you've been able to add value because of the addition of AI, but what you've been able to also do is reduce costs because of the duration of employing staff.
Substantially.
And that is an incredible insight. So now what we are going to move to is, so I work for Amazon Web Services. We use the platform Amazon Bedrock. Bedrock is an AWS-powered tool that has multiple large language models and enables you to build AI applications. So there then has to be a place that you host these things. So the question here becomes, how do you deal with the need to introduce budget for cloud spend when you are introducing technology into your organizations? So we've talked about cost reduction in the efficiency of AI, but now actually the running cost, the fixed cost of moving into cloud and paying for this technology, how has that affected your business models as law firms, as founders? Does anyone want to first ask yes, we can see Ovi, please jump onto the platform. Give us some insight.
So I think one of the most important things when you're viewing the issue of cost and should I say, the adoption of cloud services and the adoption of technology services in the practice of law has to do with, first and foremost, efficiency. You know, so I come from a time when law reports used to be physical. Then you had the advent of, should I say, case management and case reporting softwares like Law Pavilion, to use a Nigerian example, and LexisNexis and others like that. And what these have done is they've made the research a lot more efficient. So if you picture this, you used to spend maybe 3 or 4 days in the library prepping for a case. You can do
Have we potentially
the
lost?
same work as Mr. Alsaro mentioned. Can you hear me?
You broke up just slightly, but you're very
Okay.
back. Please continue.
Okay. And one of the key things now is when we're looking at, in terms of budget, most of the time I work remotely. We have offices now in Lagos, in London, and in Abuja. And what I find myself doing is traveling from place to place. And in terms of just pure efficiency, being able to have a cloud-based case management system that allows me to manage all my case files and manage all my documents and manage transactional work remotely is essential. Now, the cost vis-a-vis the efficiency, I suppose, would be minuscule. For example, you're using Google Mail services, which means you have Google storage accounts and devices, which allows you to be able to manage all your documents remotely. Now, you lose the, should I say, the damage that can come from having paper documents and documents physically getting lost or getting damaged, and you move to a point where everything is online. And in terms of efficiency, I have found that the cost of efficiency is much, cloud services as a whole. I think that is a cost that we have to pay. It's almost as necessary as petrol for a car, because the way the world has moved now, it's not about whether or not AI or technology. Let's be specific. It's not about whether technology will impact legal practice. It is about how far it would impact legal practice. It's not necessarily about how well we work with technology, it's how we have to work with technology. Case in point, this webinar is only possible because of technology. We have people in differing places. I am sitting in a cafe in Warwick University at the moment. This is only possible because we have technology. My other panelists are spread out all over Lagos, Nigeria. Only possible because of technology. So it's now a question of how much more efficient we become vis-a-vis the costs. The more you work, the more efficient you are, the more cases you can do, the more revenue you can earn, and consequently, the more income you make. So when you compare the rise in income vis-a-vis the cost of technology, minuscule. And it's something that is worth jumping into. Thank you.
So we can see that you're a proponent for move forward with the times and the technology. I'm sure across the breadth of the legal practice and industry, there'll be varying adoption rates, as we've already seen. But one of the areas that was already alluded to, I think actually Mo raised it, was that area of the risks, some of the risks and challenges, especially from an ethical and regulatory perspective. Given how trusted law has to be as a profession to be successful, there is this dichotomy that as a Gen AI practitioner, we understand these models are only as good as the data that they are trained on, first of all. Then we have to ensure that algorithms are able to deliver results and workflows that they are being designed to deliver. We have challenges like hallucinations and false positives that are poured out of models that then need to be fine-tuned, tweaked, and corrected. This is real. So we're going to move into some of these considerations and how you all are actually dealing with some of these challenges as you embrace technology for your organizations. So into some more specific questions on this. With certain tools, if you were to have a AI model that missed a particular clause, for example, so you've had it analyzing contracts, flagging various different issues, but it missed a critical clause. This is just a general question out to the room. Who would be liable when that's discovered? Would it be the law firm that has the model that is liable? Would it be the AI organization that provided the technology? Or would it be the client who has employed a law firm and an AI model to, or an AI company to provide that technology? Who would be liable if there was this kind of breakdown and this was discovered later down the line? Does anyone on our panel want to take that as an opening question? Okay, let's go for it. Yes.
Okay. So despite the fact that AI is important, right, or is useful right now and helps us in service delivery, it's important that the lawyers continue to take responsibility for the work that is done. It's important right now that we don't suspend our legal skills, our thinking to AI. If you draft a contract and you use AI, it is not expected by, and I'm sure none of the partners here and none of the SANs or lawyers anywhere in the world will expect that a lawyer who drafts the contract with the help of AI would suspend their intellectual capacity and the capacity to review and do a thorough work at the end of the day, right, on the work. When you use AI, in fact, I have used AI to do some work sometimes, like I've used AI or I use AI sometimes, and it still takes me hours to finish the work because I would still do a thorough review of the work. AI can help, but it shouldn't be everything. And if a law firm turns out work using AI and there's an issue with the job, then the law firm should take responsibility and is responsible for the issues, right? And that also goes to the thoughts and the fears that people have that AI will take the job of lawyers. What is expected is that it would enhance the quality of the work we do, but it's not expected to take over our work or our job.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you for that response. What it has. Oh, yes, somebody else wants to respond. Mr. Osaro,
yes,
please go ahead.
I thought I should add to what Sean had just said, that there's actually a decision that's come out from the American law courts. I think it's Stephanie Wandsworth and the Walmart, where this particular question that you raised became the issue in court, where counsel had cited cases that were wrong. There's a misrepresentation of the law. Question was who was responsible. And I think the answer is straightforward. Not only was the counsel who did this responsible, but his supervisor was also fined for not actually using AI as a tool. It's not a substitute for intelligence, human intelligence. It's only a tool to achieve an objective. So I think that decision is a good decision that I think everybody, every lawyer who is using AI should actually study, because the responsibility rests on the user. And in this case, the supervisor was also held responsible. Thank you.
That's a fantastic real-life context response that buttresses the points that Shayon was making in her piece as well. So one of the things that actually came out, there are certain real pioneers in this realm of legal tech, groundbreaking pioneers actually, and I caught up with one of them in the background during prep for this session. Now it's the CEO of Definely that has actually been able to take on huge clients across the world and automate processes that are very common in the legal practice. And one of the things that was raised was something that Sharon talked about, that once you've utilized AI, you can also end up spending hours to ensure that, to Mr. Osaro's point, whatever judgment, whatever advice, whatever conclusion you make has been validated by a human. So what he was saying was there has to be a real clarity around where AI adds value so you don't end up using it and duplicating effort, because then you pay and then you work and then there's like a cancelling of the benefit. So because of this, what I would ask is, how can you optimize for AI as a tool to avoid the reworking to ensure accuracy? Where would you see AI's greatest strengths as opposed to this broad brush application? And this is opened up to anyone on the panel that has a real clarity around these are the areas that AI is very helpful. That isn't a duplication and I find powerful. Ovi, I see your hand up. Brilliant. Go for it. Oh, you're still on mute.
So what I would say, with regards to how technology, should I say, enhances legal practice, I think Definely, first and foremost, is a phenomenal tool because it takes, should I say, the pain out of drafting. My seniors on the call would appreciate the fact that back in the days, I was speaking to Mr. Osaro earlier today, and we're reminiscing about his younger days in practice. And those days, practice was very longhand. Drafting was very longhand. When you're prepping documents for court, you're prepping your processes for court, you're doing this very, very longhand, as opposed to now where you have precedents already ready. Now, what you have with technology, what that does for us is it takes our time. If you're going to spend 5 days prepping a set of processes for courts, your time is now used much more efficiently. Those 5 days can go down to a day and a half. Why? Because your basic parameters are already set. So what you then have is you have a working document that you can start from. You're not starting from scratch, you're starting from somewhere. And I cannot overemphasize the importance of lawyers being involved in the drafting. Because a lot of, and here's another thing, a lot of AI tools, a lot of people don't seem to realize, are based on American case law. For example, if you're using ChatGPT, you're using Spellbook, they're based on American case law. They're based on American law. We operate on Nigerian law, which is ultimately based on the English legal system. So your case references are different. The way tenancy agreements are drafted are different. So automatically, if you don't have a supervisor or a lawyer who's going to review all the documentation, you instantly have a problem. Instantly, because you have a contract that's being drafted, if you use ChatGPT, based on American legal systems and American laws as opposed to Nigerian laws. And one of the points you raised earlier about the availability of data. So ChatGPT is based on data sets, on raw data that's collected worldwide. So they don't have a lot of Nigerian data and Nigerian legal data. So therefore the references are somewhat limited. But ultimately it's all about efficiency.
Okay, so just pausing actually to reflect on that, we have nearly 200 participants that are on this call. No doubt we have lawyers and we have those practicing law, but we also have those that are students and are coming up in this profession and seeing this as a fantastic opportunity for some steer on how to take their careers further. So really looking at the opportunity that AI presents, you've just raised there, Ovi, that models are based on American case law. Then listed across the panel, given gaps or things that you can see, what kind of opportunities would you say for upcoming lawyers or in making sure that your skill set is robust? What advice would you give to ensure that lawyers are very ready for this current landscape of AI adoption? Is there any guidance, recommendations you could make, areas of opportunity? So guidance, recommendations, areas of opportunity for broadening skill sets to complement legal careers in this day and age. Do we have anyone that wants to respond to that? Yes, Mr. Osaro, please go ahead.
All right. So what Bonnie was to say very interesting about how what we do in law often enough and what we used to do was predictive, what you now call predictive analysis. We do opinions. We predict how a judge is going to decide a case. We predict how a Supreme Court will decide a case. So we write opinions. And the more cases you've read, the more knowledgeable you are, the better your opinion will be. And usually the opinion is as precise and as good as your background knowledge, okay? Now, AI is doing all that predictive analysis. That's what they're doing today. However, you have to be extremely careful because what is the data that is being transformed into information? So what Bruno was talking about is you still have raw data there, particularly with ChatGPT. What you have is raw data, and then you begin to have wrong information in law. That's what happens with the Nigerian cases, actually. They actually gives you a case that is non-existent because they find some case that is closely related. If you know how algorithm works, it works on mathematical calculation. So they find something that's closely related, a name that is closely related, and then gives you that as the answer to your question with the authorities. Now,
We've got another line that needs to be muted, please. Thank you very much. Please go ahead, Mr. Osaro.
so what I then find is I'm using AI to confirm my position. Usually I have a firm, strong view. And so rather than spend time longhand writing an opinion or writing a derived position from a particular law, from a particular sector of the law, what I do, section of the law, what I do is basically, this is what I think. Let me see what others who have put in their material in the internet are thinking. So it's normally not a substitute for my intellect. It's usually just to confirm it. And I can tell when it is wrong because I'm quite knowledgeable, because I've done my work. Now, this brings me to those who are coming into the law for the first time. AI is not a substitute for the interpersonal field and learning. So I tell my younger colleagues who are not spending a lot of time reading and just finding answers from ChatGPT to say, look, you'll never be a good lawyer if you don't spend time interacting with senior lawyers and actually learning the law rather than looking for answers that you may not be able to trust. And because you're not sufficiently knowledgeable, you cannot even tell when it's wrong. So I think that it is what I call ethical use of AI has to be taught in schools. And then we just talk about AI broadly. What focus should you be looking at? It's the most important part of the technology for me that is relevant to young people is blockchain, because that's where you store information. And then combining that with Internet of Things and then software, what you call AI now, and transmitting that information must be well understood. Then you begin to understand the limitations of technology. So for me, asking the question, what should you focus on? How is the information gathered and how is it stored? And what is the most effective way to store information, which is blockchain? That's my advice to the young people. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that advice. And everyone listening, you heard it from Mr. Otaro. So you've got some direction there if it's needed. Now, just as we start to look to wrapping up and going into an area that's incredibly important, we have the Nigerian Bar Association that plays a key role in setting legal practice standards. So for AI-generated work, should that have regulatory oversight? And if so, what should that oversight look like? So this is very much from a Nigerian Bar Association perspective. Also would happily welcome Mrs. Folashade Ali into the conversation if you would like. But to all the panelists, for the Nigerian Bar Association, with setting standards for legal practice, what would a regulatory oversight look like? What do you think is needed just to govern all this use of AI? Any responses, you are welcome. Do you have anybody that wants to step up to the floor?
Okay, I would just
please.
I'm sure the other panelists would have something to say. I know the Nigerian Bar Association is already working on guidelines to regulate or guide lawyers on the way AI is used in legal practice. So that's already in process. Then data is important. Data, understanding the data, regulation of data and there's already data protection laws in Nigeria. Given that AI is fed based on data, it's very important that the lawyers understand data protection and how to avoid breaching the laws, and not just understand data protection in Nigeria, but cross-border, because a lot of what we do right now is global, and we're going to be reaching far and wide. So there's a need for us to collaborate, even with lawyers in other countries, to understand data protection and how it will work cross-border. There's also obviously ethical considerations, and I know the Nigerian Bar Association guidelines will deal with ethics and the rest. I would but just as I conclude,
Yes.
you asked earlier what the junior lawyers should consider.
Yes, feel free to contribute. Yes.
Should pay attention to. Data protection is definitely very important right now. There shouldn't be any lawyer out there completing a degree or completing a degree in law without a knowledge of data protection. You need to actively seek that knowledge out, because with AI comes the issues, the data breaches issues, and it's important that the lawyers understand how to enforce compliance. There's also understanding cybersecurity. That's another aspect that lawyers should look at now. And then law tech. There's no, as we grow, as AI grows and the years go by, it's on lawyers. I would expect that lawyers will be doing a lot with technology. So it won't just be law, but there'll be a lot of law tech also, combining both. But I'll leave you, because I know that we're coming to the end of this, and I would give other panelists an opportunity to speak.
Fantastic contributions. Thank you very much. So linked to that question, just looking at the Nigerian data protection laws like NDPR and the data privacy piece that Sharon has so eloquently presented, again, this is an opening up as to how data privacy concerns can be managed by Nigerian law firms to ensure compliance with existing data protection laws like NDPR whilst using AI tools. So do we have any more responses on that? Ensuring safety, ensuring confidence in the use of AI tools vis-a-vis data protection laws?
Okay, maybe I should just
yeah, and then we'll have one last question to end after this. Yes, Mr. Otaro, please go on.
Maybe Kulu also might want to speak before I speak. He hasn't said anything about this. I don't want to monopolize the Go ahead.
No, please carry on, sir. I'll allow you to go first.
Great.
Yes, thank you.
So with data protection, as far as law firms are concerned, what we do, there's an inherent confidentiality oath that we take to start with. I mean, so once you come into the office, I mean, we're very concerned here about data protection. So we repeat every time that what we even discuss, let alone what you put on ChatGPT, is governed inherently by confidentiality. So you're not expected to discuss it. So if there's a tool that will enable an escape of information, then you have to be extra careful how you use that tool. But I tell you more of the greater concern. The greater concern is when you begin to introduce smart contracts into blockchain that relates to public records. So if, for example, you're using a blockchain in the land registry, what then happens is you introduce smart contract, which is where we're going to. Now, those smart contracts have a lot of information that is not needed for that particular contract, but you need it to activate the prompts. So how do you protect that? That is where government must now come in. Because if they don't, we're going to have a big problem. Because many of these institutions are moving towards blockchain and smart contracts. So how do we protect the information that will be flowing through public-private blockchains? That is really what we should be looking at very seriously. But in terms of the law firms itself, they have, the law firms themselves, they have actually originally had different models of actually protecting information. It's just that the lawyers should now know the extent to which information can escape when you're using any of these tools. That's all you need to do, train people better.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that response. And before we go to closing remarks, we will hand over to Mrs. Folashade to give I'd like to just
No,
thank.
we have no. We it's an hour and a half. There are about 10 questions from people which have been sending to you privately.
Fine, wonderful.
I think it's only proper that we allow them to these questions to be answered by the panelists. If you don't mind, please, even if it's 15 minutes,
Of
go
course,
through some of the
absolutely.
questions.
Let's open up to the floor. Apologies, did not see your questions. So
if you check your chat box, I've been sending them to you privately.
brilliant. So we can actually take these questions by raised hands if I haven't.
I think it would take longer if you do that.
All right, so I'll just go to the chat.
Yes.
All right, here we are. All right, so some of the questions that have come in, and I will reference you by name if I have that, are, okay, how do we address cybersecurity issues that may likely affect the confidentiality, integrity, and accessibility? So we've got CIA triage of documents stored on cloud systems, vis-a-vis achieving efficiency in our practice. So who would like to take that question? I'll take it again. So the question there was, how do we address cybersecurity issues that may likely affect the confidentiality, integrity, or accessibility, the CIA triage, of documents stored on the cloud, vis-a-vis achieving efficiency in our practice? So does anybody already feel like they would like to take that question? I can see, yes, Ovi, please come off of mute and let's hear a response for that. And I'll prepare the next question.
So I think when it comes to cybersecurity issues, those are issues that are already embedded within legal practice. It's all about security of documentation, security of client information, security of our intellectual property as lawyers. Now, all we're doing is taking it from hardware to software, taking it from physical to electronic copies. And the most important thing with this is the same security that we have to employ within our normal office premises. For example, your file storage areas, how accessible are they? Are the same details we need to apply online? How secure is your case management software? How are your client files stored? How are they protected? How are your legal opinions and client information kept? And this ties into the NMP, NDPR, and the effects and implications of NDPR as far as legal practice is concerned. It comes down primarily to protection of client information and how we choose to do that. Now, regardless of however we store our data, the data still has to be stored with certain objectives in mind. Client confidentiality and protection is paramount.
Fantastic. Thank you for that response. Another question that's just come in is, how do we address the issue of data integrity in our legal landscape, given that we are consumers of AI? And my panelists, please feel free to jump on the platform. I can see Mr. Osaro smiling at me. Please go ahead.
Because I know asked that question and he knows the answer. Ugo's asked that question. The partner responsible for, look, we are consumers of AI is a big issue. There are two things that has happened, especially in Africa, in South Africa, especially, which is the protection of intellectual property as it relates to AI. So for the first time in South Africa, and I'll deal with this question shortly, but I just want to say, for the first time in South Africa, you now have a machine recorded as the intellectual owner of a particular development of a particular AI, okay? Now, the point is this, as consumers, we're going to be doing a lot of receiving and copying. So there needs to be national intervention very quickly, because we're still just copying and receiving information to be able to develop our software. We're not yet developers. So I think that the simple answer, Ugo, is that government needs to wake up and do something. NICDA, and we're working with NICDA, and I know Ugo is doing something about this. So Ugo, what other answer do you want me to give you other than the fact that there has to be regulation to deal with this issue? Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you've answered a familiar person with an answer that you say they knew. So I hope that has been beneficial to everybody else. Now, we actually touched on the benefits of using AI, the fact that actually it's becoming so much more widespread, even in law, that typically was an industry that was a slow adopter. But we've had a question come in from Deji that is asking, given all the inherent benefits from using AI, then what is the fate of junior practitioners, those coming into the industry, especially, as was cited earlier, the reduction in the use of associates and the time that they were spending on cases being able to be optimized? What is the opportunity for them coming in? Anybody want to answer that?
I would like to.
Please, Sheil. Yes.
I think right now, what lawyers need to be thinking about is how they can establish themselves as providers of quality service. If you are a junior lawyer who is not taking your work seriously, you're into just routine work and all that, you might suffer from that. But if you're a lawyer who is about quality, learning, becoming an expert in the various fields that are available, you will be indispensable, because AI can't take the place of a lawyer who provides quality, excellent services. And what AI does for lawyers now is frees you to also understand the commercial aspect of the work that you're doing. In the past, lawyers were inundated with reading and material that sometimes they would be unable to have enough time to build proper deep competence in the areas in which they were working. But now, when the routine is taken off you, you really can become, if you're in finance space, you should understand finance and law, not just law. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then, apart from that, it opens opportunities for lawyers to go into tech, not just law, but also be solution providers wherever they are. As the junior lawyers see the friction and the issues in the system, there's no reason why lawyers shouldn't learn coding also and build solutions to the issues. That is my suggestion. So lawyers need to try and build more understanding of the law, understanding of business, understanding of sectors, and avoid being the lawyer who is just about routine work. Because if it's only routine work you're focused on, yes, you might suffer.
Okay. So we've heard there, diversify, still keep the fundamentals of law and your legal practice, but diversify. That's really interesting. If there aren't any further comments on that question, we actually do have a few questions that are linked to a similar topic. So we've had a question that is around how lawyers can preserve the integrity of the documents that were analyzed by AI. We've also had what legal framework is currently enforceable in Nigeria for regulating the use of AI as a tool in legal practice. So you can see that those two questions are quite similar. And this was especially if there is nothing in terms of framework. We understood, obviously, that the Nigerian Bar Association is drafting guidelines already as we speak. But if there isn't a fully enforced framework, can lawyers rely on the intellectual property law? So this is somebody in the property realm, for example. Can they rely on existing laws, intellectual property laws, for data protection where a framework does not exist? So if anybody wants to share a response to that, please, the floor is open.
Okay, Joy, you've spoken about a few things. So let me get your question correctly.
So this is, yes, I can clarify for you.
Go ahead, clarify, yes, go ahead.
Yes, so it's very much around, with the absence of a framework where there is a use of AI, how can lawyers, or which kinds of framework can people look to in order to have a legal standard to follow? Can they rely on intellectual property law, for example, where there is a missing framework around the use of AI?
Okay, so I mean, it would be interesting to see the guidelines that the NBA is introducing. But I suspect it will be something like if there's an idea that is generated directly from AI, that seems like you're using it as an authority, then you must perhaps refer to the fact that you are obtaining that particular concept from AI, okay? So you have a source of the authority, which is what we do in law all the time. I suspect that's where we're going. But in terms of intellectual property, that raises a totally different question, like who owns the intellectual property of information or a particular design that you've obtained from ChatGPT? That question is one that is debatable across the world. It's still a big issue because machines are not ordinarily, the law does not anticipate that machines will be taken as the designers of any particular concept. Okay, so I think our intellectual property laws will have to change to recognize the fact that machines are now beginning to create their own software. I think that is a discussion that is going around the world at the moment, not just in Nigeria.
So a very interesting perspective that I'll add was in November, I was invited to speak at the House of Lords on the impact of Gen AI in the art industry. And what they found at that time was that autonomous AI generated art sold for 350 million at Sotheby's, one of the art houses. Now that artwork was completely generated by AI. Who owned it? It was the creator, but there was AI couldn't get paid, you know? And so just to say, and again, that's the art industry, and we wrangled with that with the Lords, but it was an interesting concept of who is the creator? Where does that intellectual property lie? So a very fundamental impact for the drafting that even the Nigerian Bar Association will be looking into. It's a very, very pertinent point right now.
Joy, one of the considerations taken into account in India is that the human being who is so closely and connected related to that particular development by the AI might be jointly regarded together with the machine learning as the creator of that concept. That's something that's been thought about, it's been looked into. I don't know if the Nigerian Bar Association or the intellectual property lawyers are looking into that in great detail. But it's a concept that was developed, if you remember, from Donahue and Stevenson, which is that the persons who are so closely and connected related to a particular offense will be held responsible. So in this case, we applied to AI and intellectual property that the human being who is so closely related to the particular design that has been created will be accorded the creator status together with the machine.
So we have to see what that marriage is going to look like in official standards, regulations, and policies. But there is food for thought in terms of how that is going to be split. So as we continue into some of the questions that we've got and really rushing through here.
We can so maybe five more minutes and then we
sure, absolutely. So we have a question.
So if I could quickly add something to what Mr. Osaro said in terms of ownership, and I will also jump onto another point that's been raised. In terms of ownership and speaking particularly about image generation applications, so like Leonardo, Stability AI, and things like that, there is a prompt that is entered to describe and create that image. The person who's creating the prompt is a person, a physical person. So therefore, I log into leonardo.ai and create and give it a set of instructions to create a picture. That image now gets sold for X amount of millions. The ownership of the image is mine. Why? Because I am the one who created the prompt. The tool was Leonardo, but the prompt that created the image was mine. And then almost that generates an NFT, a non-fungible token, because that's what you would have at the end of it. It's a one-off image. And that NFT is owned by the person who created the NFT. So I think in the end and this is now going into efficiency of AI, because another question was raised around there. In the end, what you will find is you will have people who become very skilled practitioners of utilizing technology to carry out certain functions. And then this will create new job roles. And somebody was asking about the role of, say, junior associates. I think it will make you work more efficiently, because what you will have is you have less junior associates doing mundane work, and you have people who are more personalized, more specialized in the skill set. And like Mr. Asaro said, you see, the work of a lawyer is not just regurgitating information. It's taking information, analyzing it, and being able to relate it to the client in a manner that helps them enhance their business. So first and foremost, the work of a lawyer is being an advisor to a person, to a client. And that doesn't change. The method in which we apply and we execute it might vary, but the actual role of a lawyer does not change. We're still advisors, and we'll continue to be advisors. We just get more specialists. We just get more efficient, and we just get better with the help of AI tools to facilitate our work. Thank you.
So thank you for that response, Ovi. And I think one of the things to kind of ask across the panel is, do you believe that AI usage should be disclosed more transparently in the AI use of the legal use of AI? So this is a question. So just imagine, in all the applications we've been speaking about, all the levels from drafting to research to putting together documents, we have a process called retrieval augmented generation, which actually will create your final reports or recommendations. Do you believe that this should then be disclosed for transparency in the industry?
I think that it depends, and at what level. We all use AI for different things. I use it a lot for editing, which is what I used to use junior lawyers for. So my thought process is still the same. Now, do I disclose that I used AI for just editing my work? It's original. Or do I go beyond that? When AI begins to give me an opinion based on raw facts, it's possible, but because of my experience, usually I have a firm view of what my opinion will be. So maybe I might type into AI and then it reforms it in a particular way. So it's still my thought. Very rarely has AI given me something that is exceptionally original. But I think if we can draw the line, and that's where the difficulty will come, as to at what points your thought process becomes subsumed or overtaken by the AI's intellect, I think at that point you might have to disclose. But the question is, where do you draw the line? That will be the difficulty.
And I do not think that we can even answer that question of where do you draw the line right now, but it is food for thought. Imagine you had to disclose. How much would that reveal of AI's participation in organizations? Just something to consider. It's not a regulation now, could be, who knows? So as we come to, I think, time, Mrs. Folashade, are we at time?
Yeah, except you want, I'm in your hands now. We can round up now,
Okay.
subject to everybody.
I'll just say something.
Except the panelists have anything to add.
Yes,
it's been a fantastic.
I'll just say something to my junior colleagues. AI is not a substitute for the hard work, burning the midnight candle. It is not a substitute, I can tell you that. We have a banking class here that we start at 7 twice a week. We're looking at very deep issues, very intense and complex issues in the banking and finance world. And all my colleagues will tell you that AI is certainly not a substitute. So for the younger colleagues who have the tendency to find generative answers to questions, they're just a tool. You still need that hard work. You still need that interpersonal relationship. I'm talking to a few very senior lawyers in the UK, and they're telling me they're calling people back to work because they're realizing that the productivity, working alone and working from home, working virtually, is dropping by the minute, and people are far less equipped to deal with problems in law than they used to be in the past. So I would only say that take AI as a very good tool, but that's all it is. The tool is not a substitute for your intellect. It's not a substitute for hard work. It's not a substitute for delivering good opinion and interacting with your colleagues and indeed your clients. Thank you.
So I actually think that we can take that as the concluding answer for this most formidable panel and fantastic conversation on the impact of AI on legal practice, but also the considerations across the pond. We've talked about regulation and standards. We've talked about where AI or legal tech adds value, as well as where it can also pose risks. We've talked about where it adds efficiency, but also a consideration around cost and cost savings. We've talked about the shifting of professions that previously would be used to do particular tasks that now might require those professions to pivot slightly to ensure that the needs to add value in the legal space are now taken up by doing more specific add value tasks as opposed to the more mundane tasks that AI is now starting to step into. Without a doubt, there is a huge area of opportunity for standards, regulations, and this technology continues to evolve. So this will not be the last of such conversations looking at where we are with AI and its impact on the law industry and legal practice as a whole. So it has been my pleasure to interact with the entire panel, to be welcomed by the Nigerian Bar Association, to have an insight to in the field applications of AI and all of the questions and considerations that come with that. So I will now hand over to Mrs. Folashade Ali to really close us out for today. And I just want to thank again every single one of our panelists for your contributions, for being role models in the Nigerian legal space, for your decades of service and having so many of us there to look up to you and partner with you on really delivering excellence in this industry and standing out as examples across the world. So thank you so much and well done. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Joy. You've said it all. Thank you. What an insightful and really thought-provoking session this webinar has been. I mean, today, as far as I'm concerned, we didn't just talk AI. We witnessed, we heard from experts, those who would have paid billions of naira to just have this webinar. Honestly, I'm so grateful to everyone. I mean, we witnessed not only the impact, they've told us real examples of how we as professionals, especially those in the legal profession, need to be careful. It's a tool, as we've been told, it can't take over, your intellect. So AI is here to stay. A huge thank you to our stellar panelists, incredible speakers, people I really admire. Mr. Osaro Ikobi, I mean, I know, you've really taken time out of your busy schedule to be here, to mentor, as you always do, the younger ones. I really appreciate you, my learned brother Sid. Mrs. Sheon Timi Kole Olu, I am grateful. We've never met, but I'm so grateful for your insights, your contributions. They've been really helpful to steer the conversation of today. And my brother, Viavo Opunu Usu, thank you once again. Thank you for always being there for me. Thank you for putting together the speakers. We really appreciate you. Modupe Dele, I don't know what happened. I think we lost her at some point, but for the little time you spent, thank you for sharing your insights also and your expertise. Your contributions of this afternoon has sparked a crucial conversation, in my view, which will continue to shape the future of the legal practice in Nigeria. And what can I say to my able, amazing moderator of this afternoon, Joy Omorege? Thank you for steering today's conversation so brilliantly, honestly, for ensuring that we extracted all those valuable information that we needed to hear from the best of the speakers in Nigeria. Thank you, everyone, and to the audience. Honestly, you participated so well, and the questions were invaluable. If you know that you enjoyed today's, thumbs up, please. Clap and applaud our speakers who have been here, who've taken time out today to just be here to help us to continue to steer the conversation. AI is here to stay for real. We must continue to learn. We must continue to implement those changes so that AI doesn't take over our lives. It can't take it over. It's from what we've heard today, it's just a tool, and the future is now. It's for us to define and to shape how we want it to be. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Nigerian Bar Association, Law Firm Management Committee are grateful for everyone. Guess what? We were over 1,000 that registered for this webinar. That shows how much people really wanted to be here. And at this time, we still had nearly 200 still online. Thank you all. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye all.
Bye.